Who do you think loves acronyms more, the left or the military?
Man, I mean, that is, look, because this job has nothing to do with inheriting an oil and gas company and charging someone else with doing its legal work. This is a serious big boy job in which you have to lead lawyers in legal combat. And that's exactly why we're going to recruit the best legal talent. That my three opponents, they have no chance of attracting the kind of legal talent. They don't even know what they're looking for. And even if they...
Welcome back to another episode of Seeing Red. I'm your host, Garrett Fulce. We have an excellent guest today. One of the four major candidates at this point, as it recorded, who's announced for Attorney General in the Republican primary. Today we have Aaron Reitz with us. Aaron, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Garrett, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, let's just jump right into the questions. There's been a lot of talk from everybody who any time they run for statewide office about how, like, you know, they're going to run to defend Texas and they're going to like defend Texas values, et cetera, et cetera. It's an open seat. Obviously, Ken Paxton is running for higher office at this point, so it's an open seat. So the primary field's crowded. Why should primary voters, particularly Republican primary voters, look at you and trust you with the job?
Well, look, it's a crowded primary, but I think what distinguishes me from my three opponents is I'm the only one with a record doing the actual work that is expected out of the Attorney General. So, you know, look, like you said, Gary, you teed it up right. Texans haven't had to choose in an open primary their state's top lawyer for over a decade. It's been Paxton for over a decade. And Paxton, of course, is a good friend and mentor of mine. He endorsed me to succeed him as the next Attorney General. But what distinguishes me is the fact that my whole career has been spent doing what the Texas Constitution describes is the Attorney General's job. So Article 4, Section 22 of the Texas Constitution says, quote, "The Attorney General shall represent the state of Texas in all courts and pleas." This is a legal, executive branch, law enforcement job. It is not a legislative job. And so, yeah, you're right. Look, it's primary season. Everybody's going to come on your show or out on the stump and say a lot of the same things. I'm the most conservative and I'm going to defend these values and I passed XYZ bill. I say, that's great. How much have you litigated, investigated, sued, defended, and appealed on all the major issues that Texans care about? And when you compare me versus my three opponents, I know politicians and wannabe politicians are prone to exaggeration from time to time. But what I'm about to say is not an exaggeration. I'm the only candidate in this race that's qualified to do the job that we are applying for. And in fact, when Attorney General Paxton endorsed me in his endorsement statement, he said exactly that. He said Aaron Reitz is the only qualified person to continue the fights on behalf of the state of Texas. I understand that a lot of time the people that are listening to your show, they're very engaged in politics. They are activists. They are keyed in on what's happening in the Texas legislature. They like certain bills. They don't like certain bills. We often think about it as Republican activists in Texas, thinking about the legislative process. But this is not a legislative job. It is a legal job. And lawyers now have a choice, Texans now have a choice in front of them to select the best lawyer to carry on the fight on behalf of Texans and the state of Texas through the justice system, on offense, defense, on appeal, through investigations, and so on and so forth. And I'm the only guy that's done it. My background being the presidentially appointed Senate-confirmed head of the Office of Legal Policy, my time as the chief for Senator Cruz, my time as Paxton's deputy, my time as a clerk for the now Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court, my time in private practice, and even my pre-law career as an officer in the Marine Corps. This is the kind of record that is necessary for Texans to have confidence that their next AG is going to be the kind of legal combat veteran to do the work that we're all saying that we're going to do. And my opponents, they have no record. I do. And it's why I have been elevated to such senior positions in both the federal and state government in a legal capacity, and why my record is so long doing the legal work for Texas and for Texans. That's what distinguishes me from my opponents. They're not bad people. I get along with my opponents. I've known them all for many, many years. I've worked with them in their legislative capacities, both in the United States House and in the Texas Senate. My contention is this, Garrett: they're applying for the wrong job. They're not bad people, but they're not fit to be the Attorney General of the state of Texas.
Well, you kind of covered my next question, but I do want to go a little bit further
Yep.
back in your record. You said you were a Marine before that. Did you go, where did you go to school? Like, how did you get your JD, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, my wife and I are from San Antonio. We met in middle school. Actually, we started dating senior year of high school. Got engaged in college. I had to move fast, Garrett. I saw my hair starting to thin, and I said, "Oh man, I've got a great girl. I got to make this happen." But I went to Texas A&M on a Marine Corps ROTC scholarship, did the Corps Cadets there, and commissioned into the Marines in 2009 as an officer. And I spent 5 years on active duty. I went to Afghanistan once with the 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, nicknamed the Magnificent Bastards, which is the coolest nickname, I think, in the Marine Corps. Went to the Northern Helmand Province, was embedded with the Afghan National Army. My son, who's now 13, was born. He's my oldest. He was born when I was in Afghanistan. And that's when I knew, gosh, I don't know if God has called me to do a 20 to 30-year career. God has placed that calling on a lot of people's hearts. Sure. But for me, when I came home and I met my son for the first time at 5 months, I decided, I'd always had an interest in the law and in fighting for our nation's values, our state's values. And so I took the law school admissions test and did well enough to know that I could go to the University of Texas Law School. So I did my 5 years active. Actually, Garrett, I'm still in the reserve. So, I do the 1 week in a month training. I'm a major right now in the reserve. Only guy in the race with any military service to speak of, which I think is another factor that I think voters look to. I think it's what sets me apart from my competition. But went to UT Law and look, I went to UT. I went to law school to continue the fight to defend our Constitution and our constitutional values. And even in law school, I was very active as a student activist. I was president of the Texas Federalist Society, which is sort of a network of conservative lawyers around the state and around the nation. We were recognized as the best chapter in the country. I was editor-in-chief of the Texas Review of Law and Politics, which is one of the very few conservative law journals that are out there. And I was editor-in-chief of that and had a blast doing that. And then I went on to clerk on the Texas Supreme Court. So that's kind of my educational background. That was my pre-law background. But it's that same fighting spirit as a Marine that drives me into this race. It's the same oath that I swore as a brand new second lieutenant at the age of 22. I raised my right hand to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. It's the same oath that I swore in the West Wing when I got to the Justice Department. And it's, in fact, I think somewhat powerfully going to be the exact same oath that I swear in the well of the state Senate when I get sworn in as Attorney General of Texas. I, Aaron Reitz, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That oath takes on different flavors depending on the chapter you're at in life. Obviously, back then I grew up in the war on terror. I was thinking primarily about Saddam Hussein and the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Right. But today I more often think about the domestic threats to our Constitution, to our democratic republic, to our way of life, to our culture, to our civilization. And as a senior attorney at the state and federal level and an aspiring Texas Attorney General, that's how I think about it. We have enemies of the Constitution. And that same Marine fighting spirit is what's going to carry me into the AG's office, and it's what's going to guide my conduct as an energetic fighter for liberty, for justice, for law and order as an ex-AG.
I think it's interesting. Like, first off, you would count out a Marine at your own disadvantage.
Yeah.
So you're always going to be in the fight on that one. But you talked a lot about getting into the fight. What are some examples of not just fighting but winning in court? And then how does that translate into how you would win on the biggest issue for you? And what is that biggest issue? Yeah.
Well, look, you're right. I've always been running toward the sound of gunfire my whole career, whether in the political arena or the combat arena, you name it. It's like I can't help myself. It's like it's just an instinct for me to run toward the fight. But my fights, I don't just throw myself headlong into fights that are losers. I fight to win. And one of the highlights of my career was spending 3 years as Attorney General Ken Paxton's deputy, and he often called me his offensive coordinator. He was our head coach of the team. I was the offensive coordinator, bringing affirmative litigation, appeals, investigations, or even just using the bully pulpit of the high office of Attorney General to expose corruption, to expose fraud, waste, and abuse, to expose lawlessness at the federal, state, and local level. And so one of the major parts of my portfolio as a deputy was to manage the Texas v. Biden docket. Now, I came to Attorney General Paxton's team in the fall of 2020. We were right in the midst of a major presidential election. The election got called. I say it got called for Biden. I didn't say Biden won. I say it got called for Biden. We did what we could to litigate on constitutional grounds the manner in which that election unfolded. It's what brought me into the Oval Office for the first time to visit with President Trump in December of 2020. But after Joe Biden was sworn in on January 20th of 2021, my task and purpose was to go to court against the Biden administration to vindicate the rights of Texas as a state and Texans as citizens of not only the United States, but citizens and residents of the Lone Star State. And so that sort of Texas v. Biden portfolio had different components to it. And I went to war on all kinds of issues, whether it was border security or election integrity or the anti-energy agenda the environmentalist agenda that they were thrusting upon Texas, protecting our children, litigating on, what everybody's talking about now, sort of sexual ethics. What is a man? What is a woman? And fighting the Biden administration in their attempts to wield federal regulations and federal law to bully the state of Texas into adhering to a radical LGBTQ philosophy that is just detached from biology, detached from reality, detached from experience, detached from God's created order. You name the issue, Garrett, and I fought with the Biden administration. During my time as Ken Paxton's deputy, I brought 46 lawsuits against the 46th president of the United States, and I won 85% of those cases. So this is another thing that distinguishes me significantly from my opponents, is you can pass all the good laws that you want all day long. You can have the best photo ops all day long about, I passed this bill, I was the lead sponsor on that bill. But what I want your listeners, your readers to distinguish is to think of the Attorney General's office like this. The AG is like someone who presides over this really beautifully appointed armory of weapons. And each of those weapons that are hung up on the walls or in cages along each of the major hallways of this armory are state and federal laws, state and federal regulations, state and federal case decisions, case law, common law, and legal strategies that the Attorney General can then wield to go defeat the enemies of justice, of law and order, and of liberty in Texas. The legislature provides the Attorney General with those weapons. It's the Attorney General that then uses those weapons in legal combat to defend our way of life and to defend our state and to defend Texans' constitutional rights. I'm the only one in this race that has been in the fight. I'm the only one with the battle scars to prove it. I love when the legislature hands me, a lawyer on behalf of the state of Texas, great weapons. I appreciate that. But just because you manufacture the weapon doesn't mean you're ready to go to combat. One of my opponents, I've listened to him on the stump around as we travel the state, and he'll often say, I wrote XYZ law. Who better than to go defend it in court than the guy that wrote it? Well, if that's your pitch, you're fundamentally misunderstanding how this job works. You're fundamentally misunderstanding how lawfare works. You're fundamentally misunderstanding how the court system works, okay? Colt manufacturing makes the M4 service rifle. Who's better to go to combat to vanquish the enemies of the United States and of Texas? The Marine who has carried the M4 in combat, or the factory floor manager? I think the answer is obvious. These are two completely different functions of our checks and balances system. I'm not dogging on the legislature, But what I'm saying is that, going back to what I said during some of my opening comments, Garrett, this is a legal executive branch law enforcement job.
Mm.
I have carried all of these weapons in combat before, and I've got all the ribbons to show it. My opponents just graduated from the Cub Scouts and now think that they want to go to war against the biggest opponents of our country in a civilizational crisis in which lawfare is wielded to destroy us. I mean, it's almost an insult to the office to think that they're ready to go. They're not ready. I'm ready. That's what my background tells you. That's why the sitting Attorney General of the state of Texas has endorsed me to succeed him. They're not bad people. Colt Manufacturing is a great company. They manufacture an outstanding weapon. You know, Lockheed Martin manufactures some great helicopters. They manufacture some great jets. In fact, they've made the F-35 jet. But I'm sorry, who's better to run combat sorties? Is it the floor manager, the factory manager at Lockheed Martin up in Fort Worth? Or is it the pilot who has thousands and thousands of hours actually flying combat missions and dropping bombs on the heads of our enemies and getting in dogfights with our opponents in the air? I mean, it's obvious. And when Texans think about the job like that, it's very obvious.
Yeah, I think you might have just lost the vote of the Lockheed manager, floor manager. But besides that, you're probably okay.
We love the Lockheed manager, but it's just different. I think even the Lockheed manager will tell you that. But the Lockheed manager is not out there, you know, engaging in the political version of stolen valor, trying to walk around and pretend like, oh, I'm Mr. Warrior. I've done what. It's like, no, you haven't, man. You're not ready for this job. Keep handing me, the lawyer, keep handing me ammo, keep handing me weapons, keep giving me the tools that I need to go to court for you, for Texans, for the Constitution. And I'll make sure that we're winning this war, because make no mistake, we are in a civilizational war right now.
Sure.
And Texas is at the front of that.
Okay, well, it was kind of a compound question, and you didn't quite get to it, but I will re-ask it here.
No, ask it. Yeah, go ahead.
So, you had a bunch of things you basically described in a lot of ways that the AG's office, in some ways, is reactive. Is there an issue because of the nature of if someone files a suit against the state of Texas, you have to go defend it, so you have to react to that. You have to defend the state laws, etc. And that's not a diss on anything. That's just a nature of being a lawyer. Is oftentimes you're reactive. That said, you mentioned you were the offensive coordinator.
That's right.
You can be proactive and use the bully pulpit. What are some issues or areas of law that you think that you would like to tackle first as a proactive measure? And how would you win that fight and not just, make some noise around it?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. That's right. I mean, I'm proud to have been the offensive coordinator. I think primarily on offense. Offense wins games. Defense is essential. And like you said, lawyers many times are reactive in nature. They're waiting, And look, by the way, the Attorney General's office does really great defensive work. There's no question about it. I mean, the state of Texas and its various agencies get sued all the time by the forces of the left. Right now, for example, I'll just give you one example, the redistricting lines. The legislature went through, they drew some great new lines. We're being sued. The state is being sued in federal court in the Western District of Texas in the El Paso division. And we've got AG lawyers that are there defending against these sort of, activist left-wing election groups that are trying to claim that, our lines are racist or unconstitutional or discriminatory or whatever. I've been there, done that. I've done redistricting litigation, but it's defensive. We do a lot of that, and it's really important. But what Texas needs is a creative attorney general who knows how to go on offense. Now, to your question, remember, I'll get elected in 2026. I've got the AG, it's a 4-year term, okay? And the first half of my term will be one in which I have President Trump and the Trump administration in office. Now, I don't know what's going to happen halfway through. There's going to be a presidential election in 28. I feel like if the trend lines continue, a Republican's going to win, and we're going to continue that partnership. But for at least the first 2 years, it is an unprecedented opportunity to go on offense because we've got a partner in the White House. I came up in an era where we had an enemy in the White House, and we're constantly having to litigate with them. And so my thematic goal during at least my first 2 years is going to be to partner with the Trump administration to advance the America First law and order agenda. Nobody in this race is better suited than to partner with the Trump administration than the guy who was literally vetted and hand selected to serve in the senior most ranks of the Trump administration. My opponents would be starting those relationships from scratch. They're not known by President Trump. They are not known by his administration. They don't know how to partner with the administration. They don't know how to wield the tools that the administration provides for us in order to advance law and order here in Texas. I do. It's another thing that really sets me apart. Now, specifically under that banner of the America First Law and Order agenda are some specific things. For example, I think that the AG, when I'm AG, we are going to go on aggressive offense against the most corrupt, fraudulent, and wasteful big blue cities and counties in Texas. I think that we have DAs, mayors, county commissioners, county judges that are rotten to the core. They have made our communities unlivable, not only through skyrocketing property taxes, but I think more centrally to the job as the AG, through non-prosecution of crime, through dismissals, through a weak bail and bond system, through a sort of jailbreak pro-criminal justice system that they've created within their jurisdictions. We've got Soros-funded DAs. Some of the worst offenders are right here. I live in Travis County in Austin. I mean, the Travis County DA, Jose Garza, you've got the Harris County DA, Sean Tier. These guys have made these cities slums in many corners of their jurisdictions. It's made families nervous about being out at night. It has prevented them from allowing their kids to enjoy the kind of childhood that you and I grew up in, where we could just kind of roam freely and have a good time and, hey, be back when the streetlights come on. I want that world to exist again. And that kind of world can exist again, where we could just go have a picnic at the playground without being accosted by some drug-addled homeless person that's been booked 15 times and has been let out of jail again or not prosecuted again, right? I want to go to a Target or a CVS where all of the aisles are not, shuttered up and you have to push a button to go get shampoo. I personally don't use shampoo, as you can tell, Garrett. I know you do, but I want to go to a store where the products are not behind cages, because you've got roving bands of urban youths bum rushing shops to go steal everything because they can get away with it because the district attorney won't prosecute it, or police have had their hands tied behind their backs because they want to arrest these types of people. So under this law and order, America First Law and Order agenda, number one, we're going to go hard against these corrupt big blue cities and counties and their leadership. Number two, we're going to partner with the Trump administration to accelerate the deportation, the identification, arrest, detention, and deportation agenda. And even though federal immigration law is primarily the purview of the federal government, what we've seen under the Trump administration, both under his 47th term and his 45th term, is that state and local law enforcement can absolutely, through formal agreements, partner with the feds in order to become an extension of the aggressive deportation operation. And I'm very good friends with Tom Homan, the border czar. Voters can see on my social media, when I announced for AG, he put out a very robust statement of support, because he has worked with me before over the years. This is exactly why the National Border Patrol Council has endorsed me to be the next Attorney General. Why? Because I'm the only person in this race that has worked to secure the border and repel the invasion of illegal aliens in my capacity as a lawyer for the state of Texas. I know what I'm doing, right? So border security, that's the second thing. Third thing is we are going to go on the hunt for wokeism and liberalism everywhere it may be found in all of our public institutions at the state and local level in Texas. So the legislature handed me, the next Attorney General of Texas, with all kinds of weapons defining men and women and boys and girls according to their biological sex. We've done things like require the 10 Commandments to be in our public school classrooms. We have prohibited our institutions of higher education from allowing biological boys, males, to play in female sports. We've done all kinds of great things. DEI, ESG, LGBTQIA, etc. All this stuff, we have tools that are available to go on the hunt to smoke out violators of state law who are flouting state law. And you need an AG who can take those tools and identify targets and go to war against them and hold them accountable to the law in the justice system. That's another example. Another example, a fourth agenda, is we are going to secure our elections. Okay, when I was a deputy under Attorney General Ken Paxton, one of the divisions that I oversaw, one of the projects that I oversaw, was our election integrity teams, and I did that both during the 2020 election and the 2022 election. What happened in between in 2021 is the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals issued what's called the Stevens decision, which purported to strip the Attorney General of prosecution authority over violations of the Texas Election Code. I had those tools available to me in 2020, and then I had those tools taken from me in 2022. The legislature then gave the Attorney General those tools again so that I could wield them moving forward. So we're going to make sure that in these big blue cities and counties, which in many cases their elections administrators are as corrupt as Chicago style, Democrat, just crooked election politics. I'm going to go against these guys. We're going to make sure that I deploy troops to litigation and investigation and law enforcement troops to every single blue jurisdiction that's going to try to steal our elections when I'm AG. And we're going to partner with the administration to be able to do it. So this is just a sampling, Garrett, of where I'm going to go on offense. Everything that I've just said, this isn't noise. This is real stuff with a winning litigation strategy where the state is going to be the plaintiff, not just waiting on defense, but be the plaintiff on the plaintiff side of the V to hold accountable those who want to flout state law. And if I don't have a lawsuit ready to go, ready to drop in state federal court, you know what I can do? I can launch investigations all day long. And not only sometimes I can make legal targets, cry uncle and submit to what the state wants just through a painful investigation. But if you're not going to cry uncle, if you're not going to tap out after a rigorous investigation, then I'm going to bring you to court. And an investigation is going to give me the ability to gather the law and the facts to hold you accountable. So look, it's a tiered system. I'm going to sue you. If I can't sue you, I'm going to investigate you. If I can't investigate you, I'm going to expose you. I'm going to rally the troops to come against you. These are things, this is an art. This is like the art of war, right? It's not just about shooting the enemy, right? You want to win. You want to win. And Paxton has mastered this in many ways and has shown the country what an energetic, forward-leaning Attorney General's office can do to advance law and order in Texas. I intend to continue that. And that's exactly what Paxton said when he endorsed me. In his endorsement statement, he said, I'm the only guy who has any clue how to advance on offense, keeping his foot on the gas, to hold the enemies of the Constitution, the enemies of law and order accountable. I'm the only guy that knows how to do it. My opponents, they'll talk about it. They'll give you a little speech about it. They'll say, look at my legislative record. That's great. But you know what none of them have ever done? They've never been in legal combat. They've never taken a hill. They've never vanquished an enemy. They've never gotten a victory in court. They haven't done these things. I've done it. And so I'm not just talk, Garrett. I'm the only one in this race that can actually show you a record that can give you, your listeners and voters more generally, the confidence that I'm ready on day one to be the Attorney General without the need for training wheels, without the need for on-the-job training. I'm ready to go.
You said something, you listed off a bunch of acronyms through there, and it reminded me of, I asked you this question, and it's a joke. So just giving you this is a quick preface for this. Who do you think loves acronyms more, the left or the military?
Man, I mean, that is, look, I would say that the military has more acronyms, but the ideological left is like beholden to their little adjectives like so much. Like if you the LGBTQIA, if you come against that, they'll lose their freaking minds, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, it popped in my head. I was like, well, now I have to make the joke because I made me laugh. Who or kind of what shapes your sense of justice, and how has it guided you into the legal fights you've been in, and how do you think it'll guide you going forward?
Yeah, look, I think that, the oath that I swore as a brand new second lieutenant, and I know that we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I, at the age of 22, in uniform, raised my right hand to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't think any of my opponents have had to raise their right hand and swear an oath with such a high degree of gravity. I was put in a uniform and handed a weapon and then sent overseas to go fight our foreign enemies of the Constitution. The next time that I swore that oath, it was in the West Wing, and my hand was on a Bible, and Attorney General Pam Bondi had me raise my right hand and say the exact same oath. I mean, word for word, the same oath. And that was a powerful moment for me because whether I was getting ready to go lead Marines in a combat environment, to be in charge of their very lives, or many years later in the West Wing, in the presence of the senior most officials in this extraordinary Trump administration, that level of seriousness of purpose, that level of gravity, that level of sense of purpose, of mission, I think I take this very seriously in a degree that is intangible, and I don't think my opponents quite fully understand it. I think that it's possible for, an ambitious wannabe politician to view the AG's office as just sort of like the next rung on the ladder, or it's the next step in a political career. I take this with deadly seriousness. I have spent my entire career fighting for the things that we believe in. Certainly I went to a great law school. I've got good legal credentials. I certainly could be making a lot more money. I certainly could be, not enjoying the holiday season a little bit more with my family rather than traveling every corner of the state, which I love doing, by the way. I don't begrudge it. I enjoy the campaign trail quite a bit. But this isn't a game for me. This isn't just a political office for me. This isn't just the next rung on the political ladder for me. I take this with tremendous seriousness. I saw, as Paxton's right-hand man, how mission essential the office of the Texas Attorney General is to preserving our way of life and advancing our values in the justice system. And so I think that that's just something in my gut that I have that other people don't have. I think people sense that when they visit with me or they hear me on the stump or have an opportunity to talk with small groups or give a speech in large groups, or they consume my campaign materials. They see this is a guy who is the real deal. He's speaking from the heart. That heart is on fire for justice. It's on fire for law and order. And I have seen up close and personal the left unmasked. The left of today, the Democratic Party of today, are not our parents' or our grandparents' party of yesteryear. The left today is a deeply un-American, deeply violent, deeply deranged, deeply twisted, deeply destructive and ugly spiritual force that is in our country. And I've seen it. I've been in combat with them, legal combat, for my whole career. I see it every day in the trenches that I'm in, whether at the Texas Supreme Court or as Paxton's deputy or Cruz's chief or Trump's guy at DOJ. The nature of the forces of the left must be vanquished. And I take that with a seriousness of purpose that I think you can't fake, you can't buy it, you can't pretend it, you can't sloganeer it into existence. You have to have experienced it. And then you speak from the heart about it. And I think voters see that about me. That's where I get my sense of justice from. It's where I get the zeal for law and order from. So I don't know. It's built in. I can't, like I told you earlier, Garrett, it's like as a Marine, I run to where the bullets are, the sound of bullets. When I sense injustice, when I sense violations of law and order, when I see the left rallying to try to destroy our values and our way of life, I run toward it. And I'm the kind of guy, I'm the kind of candidate that I think voters can look at and say, all right, he's carrying a certain flag that I'm willing to follow into combat because he's going to take us to victory. And that's what I want to do as the next AG of Texas.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to keep talking. We're going to go do a longer version of this talk over on Substack. But for the folks who are listening to us on X or on YouTube, kind of give us a little rundown of where people can find more information about you and, do a little outro there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I think people can go to my website. It's aaronreitz.com, AARONREITZ. Overreach.com. Folks can follow me on X, where I'm probably most active on social media. My handle is underneath my name, but if you're just listening, it's at Aaron_Reitz, AARON_Reitz. And my bottom line is this: what Texans want out of their next attorney general is someone who, like Trump said about me personally, is a true MAGA attorney and a warrior for the Constitution. That's what we need as the next AG. That's what Texans want as the next AG. And they need somebody who's not just going to talk about what they're going to do, but who has spent his entire career in legal combat, bearing the scars of battle against the left through the justice system on offense, defense, litigation, appeals, investigations. That's what I've done. And it's why Texans can have total confidence that I'm the guy to carry the flag of law and order, advance it through the justice system, and ensure that Texas and Texans win. That's what I'm going to do.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. For those who are watching on YouTube and on X, the full unedited version will be over on our Substack. It's live already. It's been live for a day or two, maybe longer already for paid subscribers, but it's free. Just go on, subscribe. You can watch it there. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. And for the folks on Substack, we're going to get into it. All right.